Good morning, East Idaho. It's 8:07 on News Talk 1079. It's a Monday. If you'd like to reach us on the Stones Automotive Group call and text line, that number's 208-542-1079. And Julie, we're going to join in progress President Trump. He's still at the podium at the White House talking about a number of different things like prescription drug prices, peace between Pakistan and India, his upcoming trip to the Middle East, and we're going to jip it right here.
A small fraction of what, for the same drug, that what we pay many, many times more for, and we'll no longer tolerate profiteering and price gouging from Big Pharma. But again, it was really the countries that forced Big Pharma to do things that, frankly, I'm not sure they really felt comfortable doing. But they've gotten away with it, these countries. European Union has been brutal. And the drug companies actually told me stories. It was just brutal how they forced them. And European Union suing all our companies, Apple, Google, Meta. They're suing all of our companies. They end up, they have judges that are European Union-centric, and they get rewarded $15 billion, $17 billion, $20 billion, and they use that to run their operation. Not going to happen any longer, that I can tell you. So what's been happening is we've been subsidizing other countries throughout the world, not just in Europe, throughout the world. European Union was the most difficult from what I understand. I mean, I'll tell you a story. A friend of mine who's a businessman, very, very, very top guy. Most of you would have heard of him. A highly neurotic, brilliant businessman, seriously overweight, and he takes the fat shot drug. And he called me up and he said, President, he calls me, he used to call me Donald, now he calls me President, so that's nice respect. But he's a rough guy, smart guy, very successful, very rich. I wouldn't even know how we would know this, but because he's got comments. President, could I ask you a question? What? I'm in London and I just paid for this damn fat drug I take. I said, it's not working. He said, I just paid $88, and in New York I pay $1,300. What the hell is going on? He said, so I checked, and it's the same box, made in the same plant, by the same company. It's the identical pill that I buy in New York. And here I'm paying $88 in London. In New York, I'm paying $1,300. Now, this is a great businessman, but he's not familiar with this crazy situation that we have. But he was stunned. But it was just one of those stories. And I brought it up with the drug companies, represented by somebody who's very, very smart, good person, too. And we argued about it for about half hour. And then finally he just said, because they can't justify it, he just said, look, you got me. You got me. I can no longer they've been justifying this crap for years. They said, oh, it's research and development. Well, I said, well, research and development, other countries should pay research and development too. It's for their benefit. It was just one of those things. And the other countries would set a price and they'd meet the price and they'd say, if you don't meet the price, you can't sell it in our country. I said, well, then you walk away and, they'll call you back and they'll sell it in the country. But now they'll have to do that. So for the first time in many years, we'll slash the cost of prescription drugs, and we will bring fairness to America. Drug prices will come down by much more, really, if you think. 59, if you think of a drug that is sometimes 10 times more expensive, it's much more than the 59%. It depends on the way you want to analyze it, but in one way you could analyze it that way. But between 59 and 80, and I guess even 90%. So when I worked so hard in the first term, and if I got prices down, remember I was the only one to ever get prices down for a full year, but I'd get them down like 2%, and I thought it was like a big deal. Well, we're getting them down 60, 70, 80, 90%, but actually more than that if you think about it in the way mathematically. And Pharma has to say, we're sorry, but we'll not be able to do this any longer to these countries that have been so tough. They've been very tough, nasty. It's trade. And Pharma is also very powerful. And the Democrats have protected Pharma. The Democrats, this is the Democrats have protected Pharma. These are the Democrats. And by the way, I just called the Speaker of the House, and I just called the leader, our leader in the Senate, John Thune, Mike Johnson. Spoke to both of them. I said, when you score, you're going to have to score two things. You're going to have to, number one, score that hundreds of billions of dollars of tariff money is coming in. But even bigger than that, you're going to have to score that your cost for Medicaid and Medicare and just basically pharmaceuticals and drugs is going down at a level that nobody has ever seen before. It'll pay for the Golden Dome. I see the Golden Dome is there, see? That'll easily pay for the Golden Dome. And we'll have a lot of money left over. We need the Golden Dome, by the way, in this world. Although this world's a lot safer today than it was a week ago. And a lot safer than it was 6 months ago. We had people that had no clue what they were doing. So today Americans spend 70% more for prescription drugs than we spent in the year 2000. Think of that. Our country has the highest drug prices anywhere in the world by sometimes a factor of 5, 6, 7, 8 times. It's not like they're slightly higher. They're 6, 7, 8 times. There are even cases of 10 times higher. So that you go 10 times more expensive for the same drug, that's big numbers. Even though the United States is home to only 4% of the world's population, pharmaceutical companies make more than 2/3 of their profits in America. So think of that. With 4% of the population, the pharmaceutical companies make most of their money, most of their profits from America. That's not a good thing. Now, I think, by the way, pharmaceutical, I have great respect for these companies and for the people that run them. I really do. And I think they did one of the greatest jobs in history for their company, convincing people for many years that this was a fair system. And nobody really understood why, but I figured it out. For years, pharmaceutical and drug companies have said that research and development costs were what they are, and for no reason whatsoever. They had to be borne by America alone. Not anymore, they don't. This means American patients were effectively subsidizing socialist healthcare systems in Germany, in all parts of the European Union. They were the toughest of all. They were nasty. And I see that. I see that with trade, too. European Union is in many ways nastier than China, okay? And we've just started with them. Oh, they'll come down a lot. You watch. We have all the cards. They treated us very unfairly. They sell us 13 million cars. We sell them none. They sell us their agricultural products. We sell them virtually none. They don't take our products. That gives us all the cards, and very unfair. So they're going to have to pay more for health care, and we're going to have to pay less. That's all it is. And believe it or not, because it's really the world we're talking about, not just the European Union, but because it's the world, the numbers are for the healthcare company not as bad as you would think. They'll make the same. I think the healthcare companies should make pretty much the same money. I really don't believe they should be affected very much because it's just a redistribution of wealth. It's a redistribution where it could be the same top line, but it's going to be distributed differently. Europe's going to have to pay a little bit more. The rest of the world's going to have to pay a little bit more, and America's going to pay a lot less. Again, because it's a much smaller population than when you think of the whole world. So basically what we're doing is equalizing. There's a new word that I came up with, which I think is probably the best word. We're going to equalize. Where we're all going to pay the same. We're going to pay what Europe's going to pay. We're going to all pay. Now, there may be some countries in dire need, and I would be willing to sacrifice that and help them. But it's called most favored nation. We are going to pay the lowest price there is in the world. We will get whoever is paying the lowest price, that's the price that we're going to get. So remember that. So we're no longer paying 10 times more than another country. Whoever is paying the lowest price, we will look at that price and we will say that's the price we're going to pay. Most favored nations, that's what it is. One breast cancer drug costs Americans over $16,000 per bottle, but the same drug from the same factory, manufactured by the same company is 1/6 that price in Australia and 1/10 that price in Sweden. 1/10 for the identical product. A common asthma drug costs almost $500 here in America, but costs less than $40 in the United Kingdom. So $40 in the United Kingdom, which is where this gentleman told me he paid a small amount for his shot. But think of that. So $40 versus $500 here. That's not even bad. There are much worse examples. And the weight loss drug, Ozempic, costs 10 times more in the United States than in the rest of the developed world. 10 times more. Why? Why? What did we do? Suckers. But we never had a president that had the courage to do this. And nobody knew the system like I do. I mean, I've gotten to know this system so well. And I don't think it's fair that it benefits Obamacare. Obamacare is a failure. It's not a good health care. It works. I made it work. I had an obligation to make it work, or an obligation to let it die. I chose that we had to make it work. I had to make it as good as possible. And I had a choice. I could have let it fail or make it as good as possible. As good as possible means it was still not very good, but it survived. And we did the right thing. But this makes everything work. And I don't want to have a bad form of health care work because of the fact I was able to cut drug prices by 80 or 90%. So we're going to maybe come up with something. I think this gives the Republicans a chance to actually do a health care that's much better than Obamacare and for less money, which if you guys would work on that along with Congress. But I do want to say that Democrats could have done this a long time ago. They have fought like hell for the drug companies, and they knew they were doing the wrong thing. And it's going to be very hard. I was just telling the leader and the speaker that it's going to be very hard for the Democrats to vote against the one big, beautiful deal. The greatest tax cuts in history, greatest everything, but now you have the big drug prices because that's going to be included. It makes that whole situation different from a scoring standpoint. I just told them, I called them up about this. I said, I'm going to do something that's going to be very monumental, and you're going to be scoring. You better tell your people that this is going to score really well. And then add hundreds of billions of dollars in tariffs to your list also. But as big as the tariffs are, this is something that really hits quickly. 5 years ago, I signed an executive order to confront this disaster, but only confront it in a minor way. It was a good confrontation, but never to this extent. And it took people a little while to understand a very complicated system. But Joe Biden, without any knowledge of what he was doing, terminated the policy and then pretended to negotiate under a new system. And then you take a look.
All right, you've been listening to President Donald Trump from the White House talking about various different issues, whether it is the cost of prescription drugs, which he is vowing to lower with his executive order. He's about to embark on a big trip to the Middle East, and he'll be talking about Middle East security. I know one of the big posters they had up was promoting the Golden Dome that he wants to establish for the region and for the safety of our allies there and for our assets as well. And he's also talking about India and Pakistan. So sort of a potpourri of topics that the president's taken on.
Yes,
today.
It's buffet season.
Yes, it is.
You also left off the tariffs between China, and then he said the EU was nasty in comparison to China. So, yeah, he's all over the place this morning.
All right, so we'll take a break and hit the reset button a little bit. We'll come back and continue on this Monday morning on News Talk 1079. It's the Neil Larson Show. If you'd like to reach us via text, 208-542-1079. That's the Stones Automotive Group call and text line. All right, it's 8:26. We were going to gravitate away from this press conference, but RFK Jr. is speaking now. Let's catch a little bit of his comments.
It's an issue that people talked about, but nobody wanted to do anything because it was radioactive. They knew you couldn't get it by Congress. We now have a president who is a man of his word, who has the courage. President Trump was taking money from the pharmaceutical industry, too. I think they gave you $100 million. But he can't be bought. unlike most of the politicians in this country. And he is standing here for the American people. I don't know what, there's writers like Lord Elizabeth Warren or Robert Reich who are saying that President Trump is on this side of the oligarchs. There has never been a president more willing to stand up to the oligarchs than President Donald Trump. And I'm very, very proud of you, Mr. President, for your courage, I'll say, because I don't want to be crude, your intestinal fortitude, your stiff spine, and your willingness to stand up for the American people. We have 4.2% of the world's population. Our country represents 75% of the revenues for pharmaceutical companies. We spend in our country $1,126 per capita on drugs. In Britain, they spend about $240. They spend 1/5 of what we do. And this is true across Europe. And the drug companies, Europeans, if you ask them, it made no sense what they were saying. America has to pay for this innovation or it's not going to happen. What President Trump is saying to our European partners is you've got to raise the amount that you're paying for those drugs and pay for your share of the innovation. That the United States is no longer subsidizing that. If the Europeans raise the price of their drugs by just 20%, that is $10 trillion that can be spent on innovation, and the health of all people all across the globe is going to increase because we're going to have better products. So I'm just so grateful to be here today. I never thought that this would happen in my lifetime. I have a couple of kids who are Democrats, are big Bernie Sanders fans, and when I told them that this was going to happen, they had tears in their eyes because they thought this is never going to happen in our lifetime, and we finally have a president who's willing to stand up for the American people. Thank you, and Dr. Oz.
All right, now Dr. Oz taking the podium.
Thank you, Secretary Kennedy. This is the most powerful executive order on pharmacy pricing and healthcare ever in the history of our nation. And it's only happening because we have a president with the fortitude, the guts to stand up to the withering criticism and lobbying that's going to occur as soon as folks hear about the executive order. So on behalf of the child in Philadelphia who's got an autoimmune disease with a $1,000 a month drug, or the older woman in Los Angeles who's on a blood thinner who can't afford her copay, I want to thank President Trump. God bless you for having the guts to take on this industry. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much.
So let's talk about the details a little bit. And this is primarily about equalization, as President Trump said. It's about fairness. Think of NATO as a metaphor. When President Trump said, you've got to pay a little more so it makes sense for all of us, they came up. And the European countries contributed. The same thing we believe will happen in this situation. Most people who have thought about this process agree that it is patently unfair to tolerate the numbers that Secretary Kennedy and President Trump have reflected to you. On this chart to my left is a list of the 10 drugs that were negotiated in the IRA. Again, this is the bill, the law, that regulates a negotiation process. This is the best price that was able to be obtained by the Biden administration. And if you look at these numbers, they actually reflect how much on top of the most favored nation price was being paid by the United States. So the closest to me, and Bob, you can point to the Jardiance, the closest one, 289%, the one that's closest to you. That means that we are paying in America 4 times more than that drug costs in other countries. Again, 100% is the baseline. It's 289% above that baseline. It goes all the way down to when we're paying 50% more than any other country. That's the range. As was pointed out by President Trump, half the time we're paying 3 times more than is paid in other countries. It doesn't make any sense for the system. That stated, President Trump has over and over again indicated, and Secretary Kennedy reflected as well, we want innovation. We want our technology partners doing the best they can to make the best solutions for drugs that cure as many people in America and around the world as possible. By getting our allies to pay a bit more as they should be, and they should have for many years been doing, will course correct a problem that's gotten out of hand. And by doing that in a thoughtful, effective way, we're going to be able to get the pharmaceutical industry whole. Those jobs will still be here, will still be productive, will still be curing cancer and a slew of other ailments that plague humanity. America will still be the leader in this space, but we'll be paying the appropriate amount, the right-sized amount for those tasks. So over the next 30 days, the four of us up here, together with people standing in the back of this room who are doing a lot of the heavy lifting, are going to be approaching pharmaceutical companies to talk specifically about what we want the most favored nation price to be based on the best data we have. We're looking forward to a thoughtful interaction with these corporate leaders, many of whom we've spoken to and in quiet will agree the system is not right the way it is. They're patriotic Americans. They want what's right. But the fact that in my lifetime, as Secretary Kennedy said, for the first time, we have a thoughtful and aggressive approach, thanks to President Trump, on taking on the special interests, should give all Americans confidence that this is an administration that stands for fairness and should chill the waters for those who believe they can push us away from our North Star, which is to take care of the American people. Mr. President, God bless you.
Thank you.
All right, that's Dr. Oz. He is the Medicaid and Medicare administrator. And then
at Stanford, as well as health policy. And one thing that's really, really simple in economics is that when you have a persistent price difference for the same product between two countries, there is something deeply wrong. And what President Trump has done is a historic measure that should have been done a long time ago. What we're going to do is make sure that those prices become much closer to equal, like a competitive market you'd expect. Right now what's happening is the American people are subsidizing in large fraction the research and development efforts for drug companies around the world by the higher prices that we pay. With this new order, Europe will share the burden of that. And in fact, if you may think of it as like as somehow it's like it's going after drug companies, actually it's helping drug companies. Because what we're also going to do with this order, what President Trump has done with this order, is he's said to European governments, look, if you are taking advantage of the drug companies by forcing them to charge very, very low prices, we're going to defend American drug companies in Europe. At the same time, we're standing up for the American consumer who's been paying far too high prices for far too long. I can go back decades to point to congressional reports after government report after government report of tremendously high drug prices, much higher than the rest of the world, and nothing has been done about it until this moment. And I'm really, really proud, President Trump, that you've done this. I'm really proud to be included in this and looking forward to the work ahead.
Thank you.
All right, that's Jay Bhattacharya. He is the National Institutes of Health director. So, Julie, thoughts?
They've got it covered. I think that there's probably going to be some pushback on what Trump said. He's like, I don't think the pharmaceutical companies will feel an ounce of pain from this. I doubt that.
Yeah.
But as I walk through that in my mind, let's say there is some pain felt by the pharmaceutical companies. Everyone is probably going to collectively cheer about that because they think they need to. But they can just cut their advertising budgets. I mean, there are so much money spent on pharmaceutical ads. Just pull that back a little bit, and you're going to be still making the same amount of profits you were making.
Yeah. You know, my theory evolved on why we see so many pharmaceutical ads. Do you want to know what it is?
Sure.
I'm actually ashamed that it didn't dawn on me earlier. Now, you see an ad for Mounjaro. All right, whatever, you plug it in.
Pick one.
Yeah. I can't go buy Mounjaro. I have to go to a doctor. The doctor has to go, you're fat and out of shape. We need to put you on something. And he might prescribe Mounjaro. And then I go and I get it and pay however much. That's a weird group to market to. And so I thought it's weird advertising because you're spending billions of dollars to reach people who can't voluntarily go out and buy your product. Mm-hmm. So what's going on? And it was a light bulb about 3 to 6 months ago. They're doing it because they don't want these TV networks to give them critical coverage. Mm-hmm. When the news networks, CNN, even Fox or ABC, they look at that, they look at their advertising revenue, and they say, oh, we made $20 million from pharmaceutical ads. Do not cover them negatively. That Now, they don't say that. It's just known you don't do that.
Yeah,
And
you just don't bite the hand that's feeding you.
yes. Yeah, they're buying not necessarily favorable coverage, but what they're buying is an absence of critical, independent, negative coverage.
Yes.
That's my working theory.
No, I think that that's a great theory. I think that that absolutely has something to do with it. It's also weird the in bed together relationship that doctors and pharmaceuticals have.
Yeah.
The common understanding is I've got a skin rash. I'm just going to find a dermatologist and go.
Yeah.
Well, their thought process is I didn't really care about my skin rash till we told you on 800 commercials in a 3-minute span that you needed to take care of your skin rash with this new pharmaceutical. Well, that's weird.
Yeah.
Because we should just be going to the doctor when we have an ailment, not because we were encouraged to by an ad.
Yeah, that's a good point.
It's kind of bizarre.
Yeah, it is. So, I gotta say, I'm excited for this. We've already talked about the issue this morning, where some people are pushing back, saying government shouldn't be involved in this this much in what corporations choose to do and not do. And normally, I can side with that. And I agree with that. However, when you get all sorts of regulatory favors, those rules get thrown out the window. Mm-hmm. And I think if you're a pharmaceutical company and you went through the pandemic, the government for free promoted your product, in some cases required the use of your product, all of a sudden you got in bed with the government in a way that now I think gives Donald Trump absolutely the right to do this. So, all right, we've got, you know what we got? We've got to take a break because we're late. It's 8:39, but we do have calls on the line. Stick with us. Short break. We'll come back. We'll take your calls when we return on News Talk 107.9.
We'll be back after a quick break.
Hey, it's Brad from Now 105.1 and QP99. I'm in the studio here. I love our studios, by the way. Ranger Rick back there. There's Neal and Julie doing their thing. Hey, when you want to advertise on the radio, what do? You call the radio station, right? But what do you do when you want to advertise on Facebook and Instagram and Hulu and Disney Plus and Peacock and the other TV streaming services? You can kind of click around on them and make guesses or read books or take courses online on how to do that advertising. Or you could call us at the radio station. At Sandhill Media, we take care of your local radio and digital marketing. So reach out to us at sandhillmediagroup.com and we'll make sure that your message gets heard and seen wherever your customers are.
It's 8:44 on News Talk 107.9. Neil Larson along with Julie Mason, and we're going to jump right in. We have Jim from Idaho Falls joining us. Jim, go ahead. How are you?
Hi, I'm calling about the drug price issue.
Yeah.
And to reduce drug prices, the government, the biggest thing they can do, the proper thing that they can do, is to stop driving the cost up through the cost of FDA barriers. The average price of development of a new drug is $2.3 billion. And so if you think about that, if you sell a drug for $1,000 for a month's prescription, it takes 2.3 million of those just to cover your R&D cost without any production cost and without any profit. So, and the reason it's so high is because the FDA puts such high barriers on approval. If they make it take years, it takes 12 years on average to get a drug to market. Tremendous amounts of studies and trials to run. Comparing that to, say, underwriters laboratories or other free market agencies that do approval for things that are responsive both to the consumer for safety, for good safety certification, as well as doing right for both sides, both the manufacturer and the consumer, and not making it unduly expensive. But if the government makes it so expensive to develop a new drug and then says that they can't charge over such and such a price so that they end up losing money, then we won't have any new innovation. drugs are available in other countries more cheaply because they're socialist countries that say, this is what we're willing to pay, take it or leave it. And if the drug companies say no, then some country like China could just break patents, make it, and sell it to them for cheaper.
Okay, but why can't we go to the same drug companies and say, this is what we're willing to pay? If other countries can do that, why can't we?
Because they have to make their R&D costs back and some profit, and the only place they're able to do that is the American market now. It'll kill innovation. There won't be any more new ones.
Okay, so you're saying this is not going to work by President Trump then?
Right.
Okay.
The generic meds are cheaper in this country than other developed countries because they don't have the development process to worry about anymore. The money's been spent and paid.
Okay. All right. I don't know if I view it as simple as you do. Because it is patently unfair that we pay multiples. The example that President Trump used about the probably Ozempic or one of the drugs that are like that, $88 in the UK, and here we are paying how much, Julie?
He said $1,200 or $1,300, something like that. I do think it is cheaper than that now, but yeah.
Yeah.
But you've got to address cost of development. You can't just force something to be cheaper while requiring the expenses of creating it to be higher than the cost you can sell it for.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's an interesting take. I appreciate it. I think what he's saying has some legitimacy here, but I also don't think that the therefore is there's nothing that can be done. And because if anything, and I should look at this, there used to be a drug reimportation allowance so that you could get on Amazon, and if the UK was selling Ozempic for $88, you could buy it from the UK. Like you could legally import drugs from other countries where they're cheaper and buy it at their cost. But I think there's been all sorts of maneuvers by the pharmaceutical companies to try and prevent that from happening.
Yeah, I believe in one of our interviews with Senator Crapo, he mentioned that went away.
Yeah.
I think because he's worked on this extensively, trying to cut out that middleman.
Yeah.
And Trump mentioned that in his remarks, that they want to get rid of the middle person because that is part of what's making this so expensive. One of my questions for the caller would be, is it beneficial for patents to be shorter length in time?
Yeah.
Forcing then the generic version of the drug to the market much quicker.
Yeah.
So maybe figure out the average time that it takes to recover the cost of the drug, and then that's when the patent ends, so that we can get those generic ones quicker.
Yeah. I know. Good point. Let's go to the next call. Matt is on waiting. Go ahead, Matt. How are you?
Hey, good morning, guys. Did you know that pharmaceutical commercials are pretty much illegal in every country except the United States and New Zealand?
I didn't know that.
Yeah. And if you watch, it drives me up the wall. I mean, you guys were talking about the pharmaceutical commercials. If you watch network news, in the evening, you'll see, like the Jardians commercial, you got people dancing around like they're in some, cheesy Broadway musical and stuff. It's ridiculous, actually. And I read a book, I can't remember who it was by. He used to work for the pharmaceutical industry, and just the racket involved in the money, and then they have the pharmaceutical, representatives going down, to all the doctors' offices and pushing all the, just literally pushing all these new drugs and things, know. And it's pretty much illegal in most other countries to even show these commercials. It's ridiculous. And so Trump doing this today, I'm glad, because I used to buy some pharmaceuticals out of Canada for a fraction of the cost.
Yeah.
And it's, and the discrepancy is, you can't justify it. The discrepancy is so huge, it's really hard to justify.
Yeah. Yep. All right. Well, thank you for the call. 208-542-1079. Let's go to our next caller. Good morning.
Hi, this is Mike from Chester.
Hi, Mike.
Hey, why should the United States be the one that has to pay the cost for the rest of the world for the development of these drugs? That excuse is that's the kind of excuse and reasoning that got us in the trouble we're in today. And Trump is just taking it back and say, no, you're going to pay part of the cost of those developments, not the United States alone.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that's a fair thing to put forward. I mean, I get the point of China, but can't China do that anyway? Can't they go out and steal the intellectual property, redo the drugs themselves, and sell them in those markets?
Well, all we've learned from USAID, I bet we're paying for other countries.
That wouldn't surprise me.
I bet China is doing R&D, and we're paying them with money from organizations like USAID for them to do it, but they get the credit of doing the R&D.
Yeah, that's probably true. That's probably true. We'll see. I mean, obviously, there's going to be an instant court action to try and create an injunction to this.
I'm sure.
I bet you by this time on Thursday or Friday, Julie, some court will have an injunction on this executive order.
Of course.
All right, we'll be back. 208-542-1079. It's 8:57 on News Talk 1079. If you'd like to reach us on the Stones Automotive Group call and text line, that number's 208-542-1079. So, Julie, after I get done with work this afternoon, I didn't get to my tomatoes over the weekend like I had wanted to. Just a lot going on. Headed out to Town and Country to get the tomatoes. I actually rehabbed. I have my buckets and my soil and my the gravel in the bottom, and just need to get the tomatoes and some fertilizer and compost stuff for it, and I'll be good to go. It's going to be fun.
It's the perfect time. It's middle of May. And, in East Idaho, kind of that day of planting is right at the end of May when the holiday rolls around. So you're right there. You don't want to wait until then. You want to go now. Yep. That's when you can get all your seeds, all your garden needs, the prep for your soil, all of that. Get that all ready now so that when you do want to plant, you're not hurrying so fast.
Yes.
Because when you go now, you have plenty of time to ask questions. There's like a vast variety of everything. So get down to Town and Country today, south of Idaho Falls on the Yellowstone Highway across from the malting plant.
And by the way, if you haven't done your 4-step lawn program, it's still not too late. You can throw down the humates, and then in about 3 weeks, it'll be time for step 2, and you're on schedule.
Oh, my lawn is so green.
I know, mine too, especially with the rain over the weekend. It was great. All right, that's our first hour. It's 8:59, hour 2 of the Neil Larson Show coming up. And welcome back. It is 9:07 on News Talk 1079. It's a Monday. And if you'd like to reach us on the Stones Automotive Group call and text line, that number's 208-542-1079. Julie, before we begin the rest of the program here, I just want to say congratulations to the 2,000-plus Idaho State University graduates over the weekend. They walked across, snagged their diploma, and they're on to bigger and better things. And it brought back actually a lot of memories for me from like 23 years ago.
You're old.
I know. I was actually, I wouldn't say I was long in the tooth, but I didn't get my degree when I was 22 or 23 or 4. I took my time. I started having kids, and it took a while to get through school. But I remember walking across that stage inside then Holt Arena. Now it's the ICCU Dome, and getting that diploma, and it's a good feeling. It's a good day. So congratulations to them and all other college graduates too this time of year. But
yeah, good for them.
School. So, Also, Julie, here's an idea. Wanted to ask you this question: a drive-through library service. So you can go online, you can reserve your books, and then you can, get the latest book by Nicholas Sparks and a side of fries with it.
No fries.
No fries on it?
Maybe
Okay.
a little bit of attitude.
You know what? I will tell you, though. Can I throw out an idea here?
Sure.
This may be a terrible idea. You tell me if it's a terrible idea. if I'm one of the drink places, I'm saying, hey, let's be mutually beneficial here. Let me have a little space in the library. We'll mix the sodas up, and people could drive through. They could get a soda while they're getting their books. Because if you're going to do a drive-through anyway, why not?
Provide something?
Now, space may not allow for it, but
space was the first thing I thought of because that parking lot's been a wreck now for more than a year, right?
Because of the water tower.
Because of the water tower. It's hard to park at the library.
Yes, that's true.
So space is an issue, but if they could resolve that, what would be the other issues? They would have to contract with them because it's taxpayer dollars.
Yeah, I mean, yes. Yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's true. And I would not want the city making money competing with the soda shops.
Right.
So I feel like there should have a different relationship. So, but,
I don't know. There seems to be a soda shop about every 2 blocks. So apparently there's a need.
It's a thing. Like it has, and you know what? It's also a trend that has lasted a few years now.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember when I first saw that, 10 years ago maybe, I thought, oh, that's kind of cool, and it'll probably come and go in about 2 years or 3 years. No, they just keep getting bigger and bigger.
Yeah, soda shops everywhere and car washes. We don't have enough. There's a need for another one every 6 months.
Why don't they put a soda shop at the end of the car wash? As you drive out, you get a soda.
Sure. I should have sodas everywhere. At the bank?
Yeah.
You could do that. What if you went in and got money at your ATM, and then there was also a self-serve machine right there? You filled up your Diet Dr. Pepper and got your cash out of the ATM?
Nobody needs the dum-dum sitting on the counter. No. You just grab a soda on the way out.
Yeah.
Because that's the markup on soda is ridiculous. So.
That's why there's that many soda shops, because they're making that much money.
And I don't mean that as in a denigrate. I don't want people to take that the wrong way. I'm just saying, from a business model standpoint, the product cost is far lower than the consumer cost. So
yes.
Why not?
Why not?
Would you grab a soda if you went to the bank?
I don't go to the bank.
And you don't drink soda?
I don't even... probably 8 months ago, I went to one bank, got a cashier's check, and deposited it into my retirement account at another bank.
Gotcha.
That's the last time I've been to.
Okay, so
I don't go to the bank. Yeah,
that's not on your list. All right. Okay, so we had that. Also, a high-speed chase over the weekend that got a lot of play on social media. I did see one video at the very tail end where the state trooper's car crashed like in the intersection, and that was pretty crazy. The Pancarry Yellowstone intersection, that's where it all went down. So they ended up getting the guy on a warrant, though.
Oh, good. As if that intersection needed any more trauma between the shooting that's happened there and then also all of the road construction that is endless, never ending.
And wasn't there a flood there too? And some dude, that was last summer, I think.
Maybe it's jinxed.
Maybe, it might be haunted or something.
Yeah,
like there's
maybe
just
something's going on there.
It's like it's the Bermuda intersection.
Maybe it is the Bermuda intersection, because you would think it would be a great place to have a business, but Sonic's closed there now too. So and that building hasn't sold.
Yeah, that's true.
Maybe there is something going on there.
Is that different? Because you would think that's a prime location. I
would think it is, but...
Yeah. Anyway, so you have that. We also have had a number of phone calls and a few texts about President Trump's executive order today. And I don't know the method of the actual executive order. I haven't read it yet, of how it intends, other than we do know that Trump is saying... We're not going to pay any more than what the lowest cost is in other countries. So that's what we'll pay for your drugs.
Okay. He did put out a Truth Social that then got turned into an X about 45 minutes before he went to the podium, maybe an hour before he went to the podium, that said potentially up to 59% less. That's a little bit different than what was teased last night.
Yeah.
Because last night there were conversations about it being 80% less than what you've been paying.
Well, he gave a range, like 30% to 80%, but now they've zeroed in on 59%.
That was in his X, so I don't know.
Okay.
Guess we'll see.
Is that just the overall impact?
Average? I don't know.
Obviously, it's going to vary drug to drug, I would think. So, yeah. No, I think if we can get it done, we should. When you think about it, though, here I want to go back to the phone call that we had from Jim last hour. He actually is a doctor, and so he knows this realm. So, and I get what he's saying. There are, in order for these drugs to even happen, it's billions of dollars for R&D costs before they even hope to make a dollar profit. So that is a hurdle, and that is a problem. You mentioned the time frame that it takes to get drugs to market. So I guess here's my question, because I do think all of these are very, very, very valid questions. But when I look at it, should there be this much time on how long it takes? Because the caller indicated it's too long. It's 12 years on average from once they start researching a drug to actually having it be available to the public. And I'm thinking, well, that may be for good reason, because what drug is going to be the next thalidomide? What drug is going to be the next fen-phen? What drug is going to be, and you want to do a lot of research and a lot of trials and a lot of testing before you say, okay, let's make this available to millions and millions of people. I think that's a valid concern. I'm not a big fan of government regulation. However, in this particular case, the consequences can be so dire if you get it wrong, and that I can understand why it's a multi-year process to get the drugs to market.
Okay, well, let's just compare epidemics. Okay,
Yeah.
So there's a potential for a weight loss drug with no side effects, right?
Mm-hmm.
And obesity is an epidemic in America.
Yeah.
Probably killing far more people than most, because it's then a cause of heart disease and other things. So you might die from heart disease, but if you were 112 pounds overweight, that obviously had a factor in you dying from heart disease.
Right.
Okay, so should we wait 12 years to solve that epidemic? We sure didn't wait we waited a couple of weeks to emergency approve a COVID shot that didn't really help.
Yeah.
So shouldn't there be some sort of middle ground between those two?
Yes.
We don't need to wait an entire 12 years, but 2 weeks was far too quick.
And I don't know if there's one answer for all the drugs to the question you're asking.
Yeah.
I maybe there are. You look, I mean, fen-phen caused a lot of harm to a lot of people.
Yeah, a lot of heart damage.
And that was a drug that helped people lose weight, get healthier, but now a lot of them have permanent heart issues because of it. So I don't know the answer. I know why you're asking it, but I don't know if you can answer that broadly for every drug.
Yeah, I don't know if you can either. I'm just thinking 12 years. I feel like there are levers being pulled, and depending upon who you are, you might get it a little quicker. Depending upon how much power is behind what is being delivered, it might happen faster. If you haven't paid your appropriate dues, maybe it's slowed down for you. I just don't think it's a pure process.
So let me introduce another angle to this, because I think this is very important to talk about. There's not much long-term money in curing a disease. Mm-mm. There is an immense amount of money in treating a disease over time.
Especially if the doctor can look at you and say, this is a lifetime prescription.
Yes, that's true. So when you look at the conflict of interest that we have right now in the pharmaceutical industry, where do you really, and I'll use cancer as an example, because there's all sorts of conspiracy lore out there around cancer, that people went to Mexico, they took Laetrile, and they're cancer-free now, whatever. The cost that would come to the pharmaceutical companies if certain cancers were cured is astronomical. That doesn't mean, though, that there is a cure that they are hiding. It just means that there's a conflict of interest there, and I do think that we can fairly say, simply because of the way human nature is, it makes it less likely that that cure is going to be vigorously pursued and then once found, get elevated to being available to everyone who needs it. I think we have to be very honest and wide-eyed about the factors that we face in terms of conflicts of interest when it comes to pharmaceuticals. I also think, Julie, and this is movie script material here, if we're going to talk about conspiracy theories, I believe that one of the biggest drivers for the need of pharmaceutical drugs has been the food pyramid that we had for
absolutely
decades. The level of diabetes that led to, putting your starchy garbage at the top, and that led to an obesity epidemic in this country that resulted in the need for all sorts of drugs, from insulin to now Ozempic and other things. And I think let's set aside the idea of pharmaceuticals for a moment. We need to talk about how we eat, and because I promise you, I can only speak for myself here, but you've seen me eat like garbage before, and you've seen me eat healthy before. Now, when I say healthy, you know what healthy is for me? Reduce my carbs and eat as much protein as I can comfortably. And the fat doesn't really matter at that point. If I elevate the amount of protein that I eat and I reduce the amount of carbs that I eat, my joints feel better, my waistline shrinks, my mental acuity increases. And when I look at that and the anecdotal evidence that there are so many other people that are the same way, and I think you're the same too.
Absolutely.
You like to get lots of protein in your diet.
Absolutely.
Because you just feel better when you do it. I feel like we've been lied to for decades.
Oh, I think we've absolutely been lied to. And I don't think it's a stretch for a conspiracy theory when there is proof that they put certain chemicals in junk food that trigger your body to want to eat more.
Yeah.
If they're putting that chemical in, they know that they're okay with you getting fat.
Yes. Yeah, they are.
Okay. How about another angle to the conspiracy theory? I'm pharmaceutical company Alpha, and Alpha has the leading statin drug on the market. Does a great job at what it's supposed to do, but it has this, not so friendly side effect on about 20% of people. But Alpha Pharmaceutical Company also has the leading drug to treat that side effect.
Yeah.
So for every patient on your statin drug, you also now, or not every patient, but 20% of those patients, you also get to market your leading drug that takes care of the side effect. So you get your 100% on the statin and then 20% on your side drug. What a double dip for you.
Oh, yeah.
There's no reason to alter your statin drug or do research to bring it about so it doesn't have that side effect, because you're making money.
Well, you know what this is, and I say this with all the love I have for movie theaters everywhere. When you sell salty popcorn, people need to drink soda with that. So it's a
win-win.
It's a total
Why
win-win.
are there peanuts and pretzels on a bar top?
Yeah. People need to order more drinks when that happens, which we all get that game because we enjoy them both and we know how that works, right? It's very transparent, very visible. But when it comes to pharmaceuticals, it's not so transparent, and everything seems to be more hidden. So,
but it might really work out for Alpha Pharmaceuticals because they're making a whole bunch of money.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. Sell one product that necessitates a need for another product. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like there is an awakening though, a nutritional awakening, and it has to do with the internet. There's a lot of misinformation out there too. I'm not saying believe everything that you see, but I think people are waking up to the sort of the pervasive lies that we've had over the decades about how we eat and what I remember. It's probably been 25 years. And my dad had read a book. It wasn't the Atkins diet, but it was one that was quite similar called Protein Power. And I remember when my dad told me that the basis of this, which was a completely different paradigm of eating. That basically it said you cut out all the starchy grains and don't worry about calories, but make sure you get plenty of protein and you can have some fat along with that too. Just make sure that your carbs don't get above a certain level. And I said, okay, so you could eat bacon? He's like, oh, yeah, you could eat all the bacon you wanted. And I'm like, you can't lose weight like that. Mm-hmm. Like, there's no way that you're going to lose weight. And I remember the prevailing attitude and prevailing wisdom was very dismissive of this book and the approach. And this was around the time the Atkins diet was big. It might have been a few years after the Atkins diet, but that one was another one that was dismissed. And all sorts of things were said about it, like, oh, you're going to destroy your kidneys with this. And there is a concern. You want to be careful with your kidneys when you do something like this, and do everything in consult with your doctor. We're not giving anyone nutrition advice or medical advice or anything. This was just an experience that happened. So please don't alter your diet until you've talked to your doctor. We're not giving advice. Yes, do not rely on us. I want to do my legal due diligence here. And but as time has gone on, what we've learned is the real problem for so much, whether you're cholesterol is not the problem for clogged arteries. It's cholesterol plus inflammation. That's what causes the buildup of the arterial plaque, is the fact that the way you're eating sends your insulin levels through the roof. It creates all sorts of inflammation that makes your arteries more prone to holding on to that. And that's what clogs them up. And I think we're seeing a kind of a whole new paradigm to health and how we eat. But you look back, and I think the food pyramid, as you and I, Julie, saw it growing up, I know they've changed it some since then. That was a recipe to die early.
Yeah. Do you remember, when I think back about how we were taught to eat, do you remember cereal commercials would say, part of a balanced morning breakfast? And there would be the bowl of cereal, 2 slices of toast, a side of fruit, a glass of orange juice. Like who eats that much for breakfast?
Yeah.
But that's what they were encouraging. And that cereal was the sugary part of the breakfast that was loaded with carbs.
Yeah, the rest of it was carbs too. Yeah.
And that was part of a balanced breakfast.
Yeah. When in reality, you should have eggs, some kind of meat, maybe 1 piece of toast, or maybe half a piece of toast. And it was all out of balance.
Yes. Yeah.
So I don't know.
It's hard to take a lot of advice from people who have been entrenched in this community for decades. Fauci.
Yeah. Yes.
That he knows what's best for us.
Oh, yeah.
You were subscribing to this crap.
Well, and I think
20 years ago.
When you look at it and the way science works, where groupthink is so prevalent in science, and if you have someone that goes against the grain, that presents a new paradigm or a new way of looking at things, the backlash against them is so professionally uncomfortable that many of them just go along with it. Yeah. And I think, like I said, I think that's starting to change. I think we're starting to see the allowance of new ideas because the evidence is just so abundant and overwhelming.
Yeah.
So, all right, 928, 208, 542, 1079. Quick break. If you'd like to reach us on the Stones Automotive Group call and text line, that number is 208-542-1079. Okay. Hello, our friends on Facebook. I wanted to get your take on this because it's a true crime thing. The new law that would apply the death penalty to the worst sex offenders.
Yeah.
They're saying that that's going to create the need for a lot more lawyers because death row is going to expand and you're going to have a lot more appeals. So you're going to have lawyers that are qualified to appeal capital cases. Your thoughts? Maybe save it for the show.
Okay. I don't know if I agree with that because you're assuming it's going to be used often.
Yeah.
I don't think it's going to be used that often.
I don't either.
I mean, they're operating on a this is what's going to happen.
I think they're trying to manufacture an anti-Republican legislature story.
Yeah.
And this is the Capitol Sun. It says the law did not allocate additional funds for public defense, and state public defenders say preparing for these complex cases from day one requires significant specialized resources and personnel that may not be readily available. The constitutionality of the law is also likely to face legal challenges given past U.S. Supreme Court rulings. So,
can you imagine walking around all day trying to find fires that you can turn into blazes?
Yeah.
Like small little flames that, like a candle flame, that you can somehow turn into a forest fire.
Do they do this early on so they want to shape the outcome of this? Because I feel like you should be outcome neutral if you're going to be a journalist.
Yeah. They're not, though.
They're not.
They can't be.
I mean, are we seeing that in other states? Trump defends plan to accept a luxury jet from Qatar?
Yeah, I sent you that story. Back in Trump's first presidency, he said, we've got to switch out Air Force One. It is decades old, and it's time. So they ordered a new plane, which has to be specially built because it's Air Force One, from Boeing.
Yeah.
It's still not done.
Oh, Boeing. I wouldn't get on.
So Qatar said, hey, do you want one of our new ones? We're done.
Wow. 9:31 on News Talk 107. I'm Neil Larson, along with Julie Mason on a Monday. And if you'd like to reach us on the Stones Automotive Group, call and text line. That number's 208-542-1079. All right, let's go to the phones. We have a caller on the line. Caller, how are you today?
Hey, Neal and Julie, good morning. It's Bill.
Hi, Bill.
You guys are talking about my passion and my expertise with this conspiracy with foods. Go back to butter is bad for you, eggs are bad for you, meat is bad for you. You start drawing some lines when this whole thing started, and I have to point to the crazy environmental movement trying to destroy the cows and the farmers and put in all kinds of synthetic processed margarines and fake meats that are loaded with garbage, all in light of saving the planet.
Yeah. So you think it's just a tentacle of the environmental movement then?
I believe so. Now, the sugar issue, that's you have a very powerful sugar beet industry lobby. And so everything you put sugar in makes it so addictive and good tasting, then it's very difficult to walk away from the products that contain the sugar. You take ketchup, you take meatloaf. The first ingredients typically are some form of sugar. And if you compare ketchup that is sold in a health food store, you're going to turn your nose up and say, this is disgusting, because there's no sugar in it. So it tastes more like tomatoes, not like a sweet paste tomato paste.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's really, really difficult. And sugar is the most addictive substance in the world. It's been proven it's more addictive than cocaine and more addictive than drugs. And so it's very difficult for people to everything sweet. And, when I drive around town, my hair stands on the back of my neck when I see lines through the fast driving shacks of every sugary drink and mix under the sun, where people are sitting in line waiting to get their sugar fix. There's no nutritional benefit. There is nothing good of these drinks, but people are so hooked on them. And then obviously we pay the price, all of us.
So, Bill, I want to get your take, because I know you kind of view all of this stuff. Trump's executive order on pharmaceutical drugs and lowering the prices. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, on the surface, it's incredible. On the surface, this is the same exact thing as what he said in the press conference, and I watched it, the redistribution of wealth. Why are the American consumers paying 10 times as much for the same socialized medicine? And we know this for a fact because we travel the world. We have friends all over the world, and they tell us it's crazy that we can go and get even go back to the COVID and ivermectin. You can walk into a pharmacy in any country and get ivermectin pills for pennies. where if you could get it in the United States, it was dollars. So the rest of the world with their socialized medicine could not afford the prices of the American drugs. And so they were hamstringing and twisting the arms of the pharmaceutical companies in the United States for the certain price to sell. So we know that's a fact. Nobody just wanted to deal with it. Now let's hope that he can do something about it, because he's dealing with probably the most powerful, if not the second most powerful lobby in the U.S. is the drug lobby and the sugar lobby. For RFK Jr. to get sugar out of some foods and get some artificial colors of some foods, which they're trying to do, that is an immense amount of work and like personal suicide, in my opinion. But maybe they can succeed.
Yeah. All right. Well, I hope so,
and
too.
we've been telling people for years and years, spend your money on buying perimeter foods, so your fruits and veggies, fresh stuff. Spend the money on meats if you can afford free-range, grass-fed, whether it's eggs or chicken or meat. More power to you. Spend the money on a membership in the gym, and in the long term, you're going to save the money from doctor's visits and hospital visits. But that's when the insurance steps in, and when you have copay, and someone says, "Well, I can't afford a $10 or $20 clean chicken, but I can afford a $5 copay on a drug," then you start losing that argument.
Hey, Bill, can I put in a little plug for Wealth of Health right now?
Well, of course.
A little personal story. It's been a few weeks, but I had a recipe I was working on for something called soy lecithin. And I looked online. You can order it from different places, but I wanted it that day, and I'd like to support local anyway. So I thought, I'm just going to, I went to different, like the big stores. None of them had it. And I thought, I wonder if Wealth of Health would have it. And I walked in. You're the only place around that I could find. And there it was at a very affordable price, food grade soy lecithin. So thank you, Bill. You always seem to come through.
Yeah, thank you, Neil. I appreciate it. And I'm going to throw a little wrinkle into your lecithin story. You want to try to stay away from soy-based foods. And here's one of the dilemmas with marketing and marketplace. So the premium lecithin is sunflower. It's 10-to-1 sales of soy lecithin to sunflower, because of the price of soy lecithin is probably half of sunflower lecithin, and that's just because of the processing and the abundance of soybean. And it plays into this whole fake food narrative where soybean industry, Archer Daniel Midland, was such a huge, powerful lobby out of Chicago. You had a connection with Barack Obama and everybody else. Their headquarters are in Chicago. It's a huge lobby. They were driving soybeans in every conceivable food, and lecithin, of course, but all your fake hamburgers and fake hot dogs, first ingredients typically soybeans. And they've done the most damage, in my opinion, to the whole big picture of the food supply in the United States than anybody else. So, like, if people can afford and are looking for lecithin, look for sunflower lecithin. But of course, if you need soybean and you use very little of the lecithin in general, then soybean lecithin becomes your second option.
It is a tiny, minuscule amount. I'm actually using it as an emulsifier for the food. Do you have liquid sunflower lecithin?
Yeah, I believe they do. The problem with it is the expiration dates are very short dated. It doesn't. Soybean stays on the shelf forever, just like soybean oil and canola oil. Those rancid, really bad oils for you, they have much longer shelf life. Sunflower lecithin, I know we have in capsules and soft gels, but I can't, off my top of my head, I don't know if we have it in liquid.
Okay, well, I will
appreciate the plug, Neil.
Yeah, I appreciate that, Bill. Then thank you for the call. Always appreciate your expertise.
Okay. All right, you guys. Yep.
All right, 208-542-1079. Quick break. We'll come back and we'll continue after this, after the news. Bill's always very, very brutally honest sometimes with you. Like,
oh, yeah.
Like he's like, yeah, you'll want to stay away from that product you bought in my store. I'm like, yeah, I literally use a teaspoon for every gallon of oil.
Yeah.
I have,
Yeah, you're probably fine
Yeah.
with that. I think the big takeaway there is amount of ingredients in products that you're using. So when he says stay in the perimeter of the grocery store, when you buy blackberries, I love blackberries. There's no product list. It's a blackberry.
Yeah, right.
Okay. So when you buy an egg, there's no product list. It's an egg. When you are in the interior of the grocery store, like I think Ritz crackers are yummy.
Mm-hmm.
Well, they're horrible for you.
Yeah.
You start looking at what's in Ritz crackers, they are horrible for you. So when you have a product list, you start to get in danger of bringing things in your body you shouldn't. So if you do shop the interior of the grocery store, your goal is to make sure that the amount of product in whatever you're eating is limited.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's become a real, almost a movement of don't eat foods that have long ingredient lists.
Mm-hmm.
Just eat it as close to the source as possible.
Yeah. It's also crazy. So, all right, I have these certain ciabatta rolls that I like to buy at Walmart. Do you know how many weeks ago those ciabatta rolls were made and frozen before they got to the shelf? And then even once on the shelf, they have about an 8 to 10 day window of freshness after they're unfrozen. Okay. When I make my sourdough bread, it tastes different the next day.
Yeah.
That tells you how much extra product is in those ciabatta rolls.
Yeah.
They're putting stuff in it so that it will have shelf life. That can't be good for you.
No. I have noticed, and I'm not going to mention any brands or stores, but it used to be, like up until maybe 5 years ago, if you bought a bag of hot dog buns, you better use those because in about 3 or 4 days, mold is going to start. I feel like they're putting something in them that will make them last for weeks and weeks.
There's some sort of TikTok trend that if you get the really, really cheap bread
Yeah.
and you you squish it, that it pops back up.
Really?
Bread shouldn't be able to do that.
Wow.
I don't buy loaf bread, so I don't know if that's real or not. I don't. But I've seen it on TikTok.
We don't eat a ton of bread, but my mom does, so I'll try it.
Okay.
I'll try it. All that reminds me, and again, no brands or stores here, but like ice cream bars. You can take them out of the package, sit them on the counter. They don't actually melt.
What are you eating?
It turns into this sort of fluff stuff that isn't ice cream.
It's not dairy.
Yeah.
I don't. Ugh.
Yeah, I don't know. Well, yeah, the economy and money drives so much. It's like my cure for cold sores.
Mm-hmm.
The cure for my cold sore costs about 1/1000th of 1 penny. I felt one coming on the other morning, like 2 weeks ago, and I messaged Julie and I said, "Hey, will you bring me a Q-tip and a little bit of bleach?" And she did. And I just put it on a couple times that morning.
Mm-hmm.
It's gone now. But nobody's going to pay money for it doesn't make sense. Nobody's going to advertise.
What is that cold sore medicine? Is it a Breva?
Oh, maybe.
I think that's it.
Yeah.
It's a little teeny tube. It's about this big.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't had a cold sore for probably 4 or 5 years, so
yeah,
I'm working off knowledge here. It's about this big, and I think it's like back then it was like $17 or $18 for the tube.
Yeah, and it would make a little hard cap on it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
mm-hmm.
I used to have some of that stuff, and I probably would have kept buying it, but I think it was like I don't know, day of the week, and I couldn't get to store. I'm like, okay, I got to do something with this. 9:45 on News Talk 107.9. Neil Larson along with Julie Mason and the program. Speaking of eating food close to the source and whole food, Julie, a nice, thick, juicy steak with lots of pepper, a little bit of salt from Grand Peaks Prime Meats is the perfect remedy for a protein deficiency.
deficiency. How about if you just want a really good quality steak?
Well, that's
the place to go get it.
That's what a protein deficiency is. It's you're hungry for a good quality steak.
We like that it's local. We also like that you can ask lots of questions about where they get their beef. You can't ask that at the big box store. You don't even know where that stuff's coming from.
Yeah.
Or how long ago it was butchered. So you can go local, high quality cuts of beef and pork, and also compare the prices. It's not like you're getting this amazing deal at these big box stores.
No, well, it's not. Their prices are very competitive, and you can add to that ribs. If you're into convenience, which I know a lot of people are, look at their crock-potable ready meals that are sous vide. You just take them out of the bag, you put them in the crock pot, and then you do that in the morning when you get back. How many times have you done that, Julie?
Oh, multiple now. It's so good.
Yeah, it is really good. And a lot of options that way. And can I also say, let's say you're having French dip or something. We've done this before. Even if you don't have 4 to 6 hours to do the crock pot, just take it out of the bag, put it in a nice deep skillet, and then just get it all heated up in about 15 or 20 minutes, and it's ready to go.
Done that. Yeah. You really should visit gpprimemeats.com. They're friends of ours. They will quickly become friends of yours because their customer service is just that good. Again, it's gpprimemeats.com. They have all their packages available there. If you don't see something, make sure you call them. They would love to take care of you. And we're big fans of Grand Peaks Prime Meats.
One of the things that I made over the weekend, Julie, had ground beef in it from Grand Peaks. And you had to use one of those tortillas that's like this big.
Like a pizza tortilla?
Like 3 feet wide. Yes. Anyway, you put a little bit of that down, some cheese, and then a crunchy toast. Anyway, it's really good.
Good.
You browned it. Yeah.
Yum.
It was sort of like a Taco Bell copycat recipe, but the ingredients, I think, were...
Here's a secret about Neil Larson. I could put anything in a tortilla and he would try it.
That is probably true.
He does not like sushi, but if somehow I put the ingredients of sushi inside of a tortilla, it would be like, that's
you know what?
Amazing.
If you probably, look, if you created the hummus raisin sushi burrito and you browned it in a little butter and a tortilla,
you'd love it.
I bet I would eat it.
I bet you would.
I bet I would. Yeah. Yeah, hummus. I was at a little brunch yesterday, and my sister teased me because apparently one of the big box stores sells little tubs of hummus.
Oh,
and
yeah, you can get it that way.
She was taunting it because she knows how I feel about it.
I like that, Amy. You keep doing that.
Stop it.
I'm building my army.
Yeah. Destroy Neil's hummus aversion. That's an interesting army. That'll be good.
We're fun.
Yeah, right. It's good. No, it's fine. You just have to put enough seasoning in it. So make it savory.
There's
like Cool Ranch hummus might not be terrible.
Oh my gosh. My favorite hummus is loaded with garlic.
I know. I like garlic.
It's so good.
See, I probably would have that.
Yeah, it's yummy.
Right. Because it's loaded with flavor. What are we arguing over?
I don't know. Start eating hummus and we won't argue anymore.
I know, but I'm just saying most hummus is really sort of bland.
No. You've just had the wrong hummus.
Yeah, I've had the bland hummus.
Yeah, there's plenty of very flavorful hummus out there.
Okay. You know what? I will try to be better.
Well, you got to pick a flavor you like, though. Like there's a black Kalamata hummus.
What's Kalamata?
Olives.
Oh.
Oh, it's so good.
I've never heard that word before. Kalamata?
Look at me just expose you to so much.
Kalamata has 4 syllables. Olive has 2. Just say black olive hummus. Like that has syllable
tortilla.
That has
Yum.
syllable efficiency in it.
Yum.
I like it.
Beat my chest, tortilla.
Me like olive. Olive good. Me not like say Kalamata. Kalamata, too many syllables. What is happening on the radio shows? All right, let's take our final break. We'll come back. We'll wrap it up on News Talk 1079. 208-542-1079 is the number if you'd like to reach us.
I'm sorry. Saying a long word was too hard for you.
No. That's
Okay, the hostage is out.
Oh, good. Okay, we haven't talked about this too much because Trump was demanding the release of all the hostages from Hamas.
Mm-hmm.
And they didn't.
They didn't immediately. There was one here, one there, and they're saying this is the last American hostage.
Okay.
I do believe there's still hostages.
Israeli hostages, yeah.
This is the kid, right, who lived in America, and his parents have met with Trump multiple times. I think that's this kid.
Aiden? Is that how you say his name? Aiden? Eden?
When they say it, it sounds like Elon. So Edon, I think, is what
Edon.
it is.
Okay, that would. Oh, wow. Lots of texts about our nutrition discussion.
Mm-hmm.
Someone said animals. I was going to say that, Neil, without starting controversy. Like an hour ago.
I was going to say that without starting controversy. I don't know. I don't know what that's about.
Well, and I don't know. Again, I talk about these things. I don't want it to be translated as making claims because I'm not. Even doctors disagree about this. But I have seen my mom clearly has dementia. And I have seen people say that we really didn't see a lot of dementia until statin drugs came along.
Mm-hmm.
But my mom hasn't been taking statin drugs, so she doesn't have high cholesterol and hasn't been taking them. So I try to, in the spirit of science, I'm trying to debunk this. However, it is an interesting societal trend.
Did she eat a lot of margarine?
Yes.
So that's also been linked.
We didn't really have butter growing up. Margarine was the thing growing up.
I don't know if I ever had margarine once in my house growing up.
Oh,
my
really?
dad.
Butter was the thing.
Oh, he thought margarine was disgusting tasting. And he's like, if I'm going to eat, it's going to taste good.
Okay.
And so all we had was butter.
Yeah. Yeah, that's...
But, I mean, margarine's basically plastic, and they've proven that it can break the brain barrier and attach to portions of the brain.
Oh, yeah, we definitely had lots of margarine growing up. We never get it now. We're all butter. Yeah. All butter all the time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay, let's do our last town and country here.
Okay.
It's 9:56 on News Talk 1079. Make town and country part of your... lawn and garden regimen, because they have what you need, whether it's the vegetables to start your garden or the seeds if you're growing things from seed. Maybe it's house plants and certainly all the things that you put on your lawn and garden, from the pesticides, the herbicides, and if it's the 4-step lawn program, that's the fertilizer and the humates and really the lawn probiotics that you need.
Here's a really great reason to use town and country. All your stuff's in one place. It's efficient. They have experts, and their stuff works. We're living proof that the 4-step loan program works. We're living proof that they're like their hanging baskets. They don't die a week after you buy them. They are such high quality flowers that you're getting. So why not just go someplace where it works instead of spreading yourself out over all of these other places? Get your garden needs, get your lawn needs, get your decorative needs all at Town and Country Gardens, and it will be well worth your time.
And while you're there, a little bit of novelty, say, is there any way to see one of those glow-in-the-dark petunias, the firefly petunia? And, of course, they do have those at Town and Country Gardens.
Yep.
They're cool.
South of Idaho Falls, across from the malting plant. You're right there on Yellowstone Highway.
Yeah. Okay. Just a couple of minutes, about a minute and a half here left on 208-542-1079 is the number if you'd like to reach us. Somebody just said they have free-range dandelions on their lawn.
Aw.
Town and Country would have a solution for you.
They can take care of those free-range dandelions. I'm sure somebody on the left would think that you're doing a great job, though. Natural scaping.
Right, that's true. Some people find the dandelions pretty, which, yeah. Do you have any dandelion issues?
No.
No? Good. Because you use the 4-step lawn program.
Use the 4-step lawn program.
Yeah, that's good. All right. 9:58 on News Talk 1079. Someone else will just end with this. Someone said sugar is also a major contributor to inflammation, which is a big part of most diseases.
Huge part, actually.
Yeah. And so someone said Idaho Falls has an inordinate number of drink places and other kinds of businesses.
They listed a whole bunch there.
Yeah. Hey, you know what? It means people have disposable money.
Sure.
Look,
if there's a need and it's being fulfilled, you can't get mad at capitalism.
I think it's great. Like, I look at them like, that's brilliant.
Yeah.
So, all right. Have a great Monday, everyone. Julie and I, we are back tomorrow right here on News Talk 1079.